My name is Lily Harper, and I was 27 years old when my parents left me at a train station with one suitcase, a dead phone, and the kind of silence that finally tells you the truth about your place in a family. It happened on a gray Sunday afternoon in November at Platform 6 of Northbridge Station, where the wind cut through my coat and the departure board kept blinking delays like it was mocking me. My mother hugged my younger sister goodbye for nearly a full minute before she got into the car. My father loaded my sister's bags carefully into the trunk, kissed her forehead, and told her to text when she got home safe. Then he looked at me. Not unkindly. That would have been easier. He looked at me like I was a problem he was tired of solving. "You'll manage, Lily," he said. Those were the last words he gave me before getting into the car. I stood there on the curb, watching the taillights disappear into traffic, waiting for the moment they would slow down, brake, reverse, and someone would lean out the window laughing, saying it had gone too far, saying of course they weren't leaving me there. They didn't stop. My suitcase was beside my right foot. My purse hung from my shoulder. Around my neck was the only thing I owned that mattered, a small gold necklace with a tiny oval pendant. It had a pale blue stone in the center and two initials engraved on the back, so worn down that I had never been able to read them clearly. My parents always told me it had belonged to my grandmother, though they never said which one. Whenever I asked, my mother changed the subject. "It's just old," she would say. "Don't make a story out of everything." But I had always felt there was a story in it. Maybe because the necklace was the only thing in my childhood that ever felt truly mine. I wish I could say being abandoned at the station was a surprise. It wasn't. It was only the first time they had done it physically. My younger sister, Sophie, had always been the child who needed rescuing. She was 24, beautiful, delicate, and helpless in ways that somehow turned into power. If Sophie cried, my mother dropped everything. If Sophie failed, my father blamed pressure. If Sophie spent money she didn't have, my parents called it stress. If I asked for help, they reminded me that I was the strong one. Strong is a dangerous word in a family that likes sacrifice. It sounds like a compliment until you realize it means no one is coming. When I was 10, Sophie got the bigger bedroom because she had nightmares. I got the room near the laundry because I slept through anything. When I was 16, I gave up summer art classes because Sophie needed tutoring after nearly failing math. When I was 22, I came home from college on weekends to help Mom after surgery, while Sophie went on a beach trip because Mom didn't want her to feel guilty. Somehow, Sophie was always protected from guilt. I was handed it like an inheritance. That Sunday, we had gone to visit my great-aunt Ruth, who lived 2 hours away in a small town called Belwick. She was my father's aunt, 91 years old, sharp as broken glass, and the last person in the family who still asked me real questions. She had been sick for months, and my father said we should all go together before winter made travel difficult. I nearly didn't come. I had a freelance design deadline, a cracked radiator in my apartment, and very little patience left for family trips where I became the invisible helper. But Aunt Ruth had asked for me specifically, or so Dad said. "She wants to see both girls," he told me. Both girls. It sounded equal when he said it. It never was. From the moment we left, everything became about Sophie. She was carsick, so we stopped twice. She was hungry, so we ate at the cafe she chose. She was cold, so my mother told me to give her my scarf because mine was thicker. When we reached Aunt Ruth's house, Sophie spent most of the visit sitting near the window texting, while I washed the teacups, changed the trash bag, and listened to Aunt Ruth talk about old winters when the roads vanished under snow. Before we left, Aunt Ruth caught my wrist. Her fingers were thin but strong. "You still wear it," she said. I looked down at my necklace. "I always do." Her eyes sharpened. "Do they know?" "Know what?" She looked toward the hallway where my parents were helping Sophie find her gloves. Then she leaned closer. "Ask your mother about Caroline." I frowned. "Who's Caroline?" Aunt Ruth's mouth tightened. "So she didn't tell you?" Before I could ask anything else, my father called from the door. "Lily, we're leaving." Aunt Ruth pressed something into my palm, a folded piece of paper. "Not here," she whispered. "Read it when you're alone." I slipped it into my coat pocket. On the way back, Sophie announced she had missed her earlier train home. She lived in another city and had bought a ticket from Northbridge Station. My father grew tense immediately, as if a missed train were a family emergency requiring military action. "There's another one at 5:10, she said, scrolling on her phone. "But it's expensive." "Book it," Mom said. "We'll help." I stared out the window, unsurprised. When we reached Northbridge Station, Dad pulled into the drop-off lane. Sophie got out first. I stepped out too because my apartment was only 20 minutes away by bus from there, and Dad had said earlier he could drop me after Sophie got settled. That was the plan. Plans changed when Sophie realized her ticket was on her phone. Her phone was at 7%, and she had forgotten her charger. My mother turned to me. "Give her yours." "My charger? And your power bank." "I need those." "For what?" Sophie snapped. "Your little apartment is right here." "It's not right here, and my phone is almost dead too." Dad's jaw tightened. "Lily." That one word. Always the warning before I was expected to surrender. I took out the power bank but kept my charger. "She can use this." Sophie grabbed it without thanks. Then she looked at my suitcase. "Why do you even have that?" "I brought design samples for Aunt Ruth. She wanted to see them." Sophie rolled her eyes. "Of course." My mother checked the time. "We should get her to the platform." I followed because nobody told me not to. Sophie found her train. Dad bought her a coffee. Mom fussed with her hair. I stood nearby with my suitcase, watching a family care for one daughter loudly enough to make the other daughter's absence disappear. When Sophie's train was delayed, we waited. 10 minutes, 20, 30. The air inside the station smelled like coffee, wet wool, and hot metal. My phone dropped to 2%. I asked Dad if we could leave and come back when Sophie's train was closer. Sophie looked horrified. "You're seriously making this about you?" "I have work tomorrow." Mom sighed. "Everyone has work, Lily." Dad said, "We're not leaving your sister alone at a station." I looked at him. The sentence sat between us. "We're not leaving your sister alone at a station." I almost said it then. And me? But I had spent 27 years learning that asking that question rarely produced an answer I wanted. By the time Sophie's train finally arrived, it was nearly dark. Mom cried when she hugged her. Dad carried her bag onto the train. I stood with my suitcase by a pillar and felt my phone die in my hand. After Sophie left, we walked back to the parking lot in silence. Then Mom's phone rang. It was Sophie. She had left her makeup bag in the car. My father swore softly, then turned to me. "Wait here." "What?" "We'll drive around and see if we can catch her before the next stop. She needs that bag." I stared at him. "You're leaving me here?" "It'll take 20 minutes. My phone is dead." Mom opened the passenger door. "Go inside and wait. You're not a child." "I don't have cash for a cab." Dad looked irritated. "There's an ATM." "My card is in my phone case. My phone is dead." Sophie had taken my power bank. Mom said, "Lily, please, don't make everything harder." That was when I understood. Not later, not after they drove away. Right there. They knew this was wrong. They just needed me to be quiet so it could be convenient. Dad opened the trunk, took out Sophie's makeup bag, then shut it again. "We'll call you." "My phone is dead." He did not answer. "You'll manage, Lily." Then they left. I watched the car merge into the street. At first, I stayed still because my body did not know what to do with something so humiliating. People moved around me. A man dragged a black suitcase past my feet. A mother held her child's mittened hand. A group of teenagers laughed near the entrance. Life continued with the casual cruelty of public places. Nobody knew I had just become a person left behind. I went inside. The station was warmer than the curb, but not by much. I found a bench near the old ticket office, sat down beside my suitcase, and tried to think practically. I could ask someone to borrow a charger. I could find a payphone if those still existed. I could ask station security for help. I could walk home maybe, though it would take hours and the sky already looked like rain. Then I remembered the paper in my pocket. Aunt Ruth's note. I unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was shaky but clear. If your mother still refuses to tell you, go to the old clock at Northbridge Station. Ask for Henry Vale. Show him the necklace. Tell him Ruth sent you. Do not let Diane take it from you. Diane was my mother. I read the note 3 times. My hands went cold. The old clock stood at the center of the station, a large brass thing above a circular information booth that looked like it had survived 3 renovations by refusing to move. I walked toward it slowly, feeling ridiculous and frightened. Ask for Henry Vale. What did that even mean? Was he station staff? A family friend? A memory from Aunt Ruth's past? At the information booth, a young woman in a navy vest looked up. Can I help you? I'm looking for Henry Vale. Her expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough. Mr. Vale? I don't know. I was told he might be here. She studied me. May I ask who sent you? I hesitated. Ruth Bennett. The woman stood straighter. One moment. She picked up a phone and turned away slightly. I touched the necklace without thinking. 5 minutes later, a man in a dark wool coat approached from the far corridor. He was older, maybe late 60s, tall, with silver hair and a face that looked carved by discipline and softened by grief. His coat was expensive but not flashy. His shoes shone. A driver walked a few steps behind him, holding an umbrella, though we were indoors. The man looked at the woman at the booth, then at me. His eyes dropped to my necklace. He stopped. For a second, he seemed unable to breathe. Where did you get that? He asked. His voice was low, controlled, but something beneath it trembled. I stepped back slightly. It was given to me when I was little. By whom? My parents said it was my grandmother's. He looked at my face then, really looked. His expression changed again, as if he were seeing someone behind me and through me at once. What is your name? Lily Harper. The man closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. Caroline's daughter, he whispered. My heart began pounding. Who is Caroline? He reached into his coat and pulled out a small leather wallet. From it, he removed an old photograph. A young woman stood by a lake, smiling into the wind. She had my eyes. Not similar. Mine. Same shape. Same soft, downward tilt at the outer corners. Around her neck was the necklace I was wearing. This was my daughter, he said. Caroline Vale. I could barely speak. Your daughter? Yes. He looked at the necklace again. And if you have that, then I believe you may be my granddaughter. The station seemed to tilt. No, I said automatically. That's not possible. But I was already thinking of my mother changing the subject. Aunt Ruth's note, the initials on the back, the way no baby pictures of me existed before 6 months old, the way relatives sometimes stopped speaking when I entered rooms as a child. Henry Vale guided me gently to a quieter waiting lounge. His driver brought hot tea. I sat across from him with both hands wrapped around the cup because I was shaking. He did not rush. That made it worse somehow. He spoke like a man who had waited so long for answers that he was afraid to break them by grabbing too quickly. My daughter Caroline disappeared 27 years ago, he said. She was 22, pregnant. She had been seeing a man my family disapproved of. We argued. She left. 2 months later, we were told she had died in a car accident out of state. My throat tightened. Who told you? A woman named Diane Bennett. My mother's maiden name. I set the tea down before I dropped it. She said she had been Caroline's friend. She claimed Caroline asked her before dying to make sure the baby was placed somewhere safe. But when I asked about the child, she said the baby had not survived. The words entered me slowly, like cold water. I survived. Henry's face folded with pain. It appears so. But why would my mother take me? We don't know yet. Yet. That word made this feel real. He asked if he could look at the necklace. I unclasped it with shaking fingers and handed it to him. He turned it over. The initials are CV, he said. Caroline Vale. He showed me the back, tilting it under the lounge light. For the first time, I could see it clearly. CV, not some meaningless scratches. A name, a person. A mother I had never been allowed to know. "There is a mark inside the pendant," he said. "A jeweler made 3 pieces like this for my wife and daughters. Caroline's had a tiny crescent inside the hinge." He opened the pendant carefully. There it was, a small crescent engraved inside. I pressed my hand to my mouth. Henry did not touch me, though I could tell he wanted to. "My wife died thinking our daughter's child was gone," he said quietly. "I buried them both in my heart." I looked down at the necklace. "What happened to Caroline?" "I don't know all of it," he said, "but I have spent years wondering whether Diane told the truth." My mother's face appeared in my mind. Diane Harper, with her soft voice and sharp silences. Diane Harper, who told me not to ask questions. Diane Harper, who always looked at my necklace like it bothered her. "My parents left me here," I whispered. Henry's eyes hardened. "Tonight?" I nodded. "At the station?" "Yes." For the first time, anger entered his face fully. "Then perhaps Providence has better timing than they do." He offered to take me somewhere safe. I almost refused out of habit. The strong one does not accept help. The strong one manages. The strong one finds a bus, walks in the rain, goes home, and tells herself it wasn't that bad. But I looked at the dead phone in my hand, the suitcase by my feet, the old photograph on the table, and the man who might be my grandfather. "Yes," I said. "Please." His car was black, warm and quiet. The driver placed my suitcase in the trunk like it mattered. Henry sat beside me but gave me space. He took me to a hotel his company apparently owned near the station, arranged a room, a charger, dinner, and a security note that no one was to access my room without my permission. Permission. I had never known how heavy that word could feel when someone gave it back to you. That night, after my phone charged, I saw 17 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Mom, Sophie, Dad, then messages. "Where are you? Stop being dramatic. We came back and you weren't there. You embarrassed us. Call your mother." Sophie wrote, "I needed the makeup bag for an event. You always make me feel guilty." I almost laughed. They had left me at a train station, and somehow I had still managed to inconvenience Sophie emotionally. I did not reply. The next morning, Henry's attorney came to the hotel. Her name was Patricia Sloan, a calm woman with silver glasses and a leather briefcase. She explained that before anything emotional or legal moved forward, they needed confirmation. DNA testing, records, hospital documents if they could find them, adoption records if there had been any legal adoption at all. "Do you believe I was adopted?" I asked. Patricia looked at Henry before answering. "We are not certain you were." That sentence opened a new kind of fear. Because if my parents had not legally adopted me, then what had they done? I called them from Patricia's office phone because she advised that any conversation should be witnessed. My mother answered on the first ring. "Lily, where are you?" Her voice was sharp, not worried. "I'm safe. You had us terrified. You left me without a working phone. We came back. How long later?" Silence. Dad took the phone. "Enough. Tell us where you are." "I'm with Henry Vale." Silence again. This time, different. I heard my mother say something in the background, but I couldn't make it out. Dad's voice changed. "Who?" "Henry Vale." Another silence. Then my mother came back on the line, breathless. "Lily, listen to me very carefully. Do not talk to that man." "Why?" "He is dangerous." Henry, sitting across from me, did not react. Patricia began taking notes. "Dangerous how?" I asked. "He's obsessed with old family drama. He tried to interfere years ago." "Interfere with what?" "With us raising you." My heart slammed once. "So I'm not your biological daughter." Mom began crying immediately. It used to work on me. It did not this time. Her tears sounded like a curtain being pulled across a window. "We loved you," she said. "That wasn't my question." Dad snapped, "You ungrateful girl." Patricia looked up sharply. I gripped the phone. "Who was Caroline Vale?" My mother stopped crying. For the first time in my life, I heard her run out of lies. Dad said, "Come home. We'll explain." "No, explain now. You don't understand what your birth mother was like." Henry closed his eyes. I said, "Don't speak about her like that." Dad's voice hardened. "You don't know anything." "I know you told Henry I died." My mother made a small, wounded sound. Dad said nothing. That was confession enough. The legal process took months. DNA confirmed that Henry Vale was my biological grandfather. Caroline Vale was my mother. She had died when I was 4 months old, not before my birth. There had been a car accident, yes, but before she died, she had been living with my mother, Diane, who had once worked as a receptionist at a clinic near Belwick. Caroline had apparently trusted her. After the accident, my mother had taken me. The official paperwork was a mess of half-truths, emergency guardianship claims, missing signatures, and documents that should never have been approved. My father knew. Maybe not everything at first, but enough. They claimed they had wanted to protect me from a wealthy family that would treat me like property. They claimed Caroline had feared her father. Henry denied that with quiet devastation, and Aunt Ruth later confirmed my parents had lied about more than they admitted. The truth was uglier and more ordinary. My mother had struggled with infertility for years. She wanted a child. Caroline had a child. Then Caroline died, and my mother convinced herself that grief, opportunity, and need could become motherhood if no one looked too closely. Then Sophie was born 2 years later. Their miracle child. Their real child. I had spent my whole life wondering why I felt like an obligation wrapped in guilt. Now I knew. Henry did not try to buy my affection. That mattered. He did not sweep me into a mansion and declare everything solved. He invited me to lunch. He showed me photographs of Caroline slowly, one at a time, like introducing me to someone fragile. He told me she loved storms, old movies, and strawberry jam on toast. He told me she once painted her bedroom ceiling dark blue because she wanted to sleep under a fake sky. He told me she had been stubborn and funny and terrible at saving money. "She would have loved you," he said one afternoon. I cried then, not because I believed him fully yet, because I needed to. My parents tried to regain control in the beginning. Mom sent long messages about love not needing blood. Dad sent angry ones about loyalty. Sophie called me selfish for destroying the only family you've ever known. That sentence told me everything about Sophie. She could look at a stolen life and still see only what it cost her. For a while, I answered none of them. Then one evening, 3 months after the station, I agreed to meet my parents in Patricia's office. My mother looked thinner. My father looked older. Neither looked sorry enough. Mom cried as soon as she saw me. "Lily!" I stayed seated. Dad cleared his throat. "We made mistakes." "No," I said. "You made decisions." He flinched. Mom clutched a tissue. "I loved you from the moment I held you." "Then why did you tell my grandfather I was dead?" She sobbed. Dad answered instead. "Because we were afraid he'd take you." "You mean take me back?" His jaw tightened. "We were your parents." "Parents don't leave their daughter at a train station," Mom whispered. "That was wrong." I looked at her. "That was familiar." She stared at me. "You left me there because you knew I'd manage," I said. "You always knew I'd manage. You built my whole life around me managing what you didn't want to carry." My father looked down. For once, he did not argue. I removed the necklace from under my blouse and laid it on the table. Mom looked at it like it was a witness. "You knew what this was," I said. She covered her mouth. "You looked at it every day and never told me her name." "I was scared," she whispered. "No," I said. "You were guilty." The room went quiet. Patricia sat beside me, silent but present. Henry had offered to come, but I asked him not to. This was one door I needed to close myself. My father said, "What do you want from us?" The question was almost funny. A childhood, a mother's name, a grandfather who hadn't spent decades grieving a lie, a family that didn't treat me like borrowed furniture, but none of that could be handed back. "The truth," I said. "All of it. Written down, Every document, every name, every person who helped. My mother cried harder. Dad said they would need time. I said, "You've had 27 years." They gave Patricia the documents 2 weeks later. Not because they became noble, because Henry's legal team made hiding them dangerous. I did not press criminal charges immediately. Some parts were too old, too tangled, too dependent on records that had been lost or altered. But civil action followed. Names were corrected. My birth record was amended. Caroline Vale became legally visible in my life again. So did I. Henry offered me money. I refused at first because pride is sometimes just fear wearing clean clothes. Eventually, he put funds into a trust in my name anyway and said, "You do not have to use it, but your mother would want you to have choices." Choices. Another word I was learning late. I kept my apartment for almost a year. I kept my job. I kept my last name at first, then added Vale as a middle name quietly, not for drama, but because I wanted to carry something that had been kept from me, Lily Vale Harper. The first time I signed it, I cried in the parking lot of the courthouse. Aunt Ruth died the following spring. Before she passed, I visited her one more time. She was smaller, her voice thinner, but her eyes were still sharp. "You found him," she said. "Yes." "Good. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" She looked toward the window. Cowardice, family pressure, old promises, none of them good reasons. I appreciated that she did not dress her failure as protection. "I'm sorry," she said. I took her hand. "I believe you." That was all I could give her. 2 years later, Northbridge Station no longer feels like the place my parents abandoned me. It feels like the place where my life split open and finally let the truth breathe. Henry and I still meet there sometimes. Not on purpose at first. He had business near the station, and I had a train to catch. We drank coffee under the old clock, and he told me about Caroline missing her train there once because she stopped to help a woman carry parcels. Now, whenever I pass Platform 6, I touch my necklace. Not because it is magic, because it is evidence. Evidence that I belonged to someone before I was lied about. Evidence that my mother had a name, a laugh, a favorite song, a father who searched, and a daughter who survived. Evidence that the truth can sit quietly against your skin for years, waiting for one person to recognize it. My parents left me at the train station because they believed I was the daughter who would always find a way home, alone. But that day, a rich stranger recognized my necklace, and he was not a stranger at all. He was the grandfather who had been told I was dead. I lost one family on Platform 6. Then I found the beginning of myself.